Have you ever wished for something so much you thought it would solve all your problems? What if that wish, the one thing you wanted more than anything, turned into your worst nightmare? Today we're journeying back to a time of gods and legends, to a kingdom filled with roses and gold, to tell a story about a king who got exactly what he wished for. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago in the ancient land of Greece, there lived a king named Midas. King Midas loved three things more than anything else in the entire world: his wonderful little daughter, his magnificent rose garden, and the shimmering glint of gold. Nothing brought a bigger smile to his face than watching his daughter skip through the garden, carefully picking the most beautiful roses, which she would then arrange in a golden vase to brighten up the castle halls. One moonlit night, as the king was taking a quiet stroll through his beloved rose garden, he nearly tripped over something. In the shadows, it was a satyr, a creature that was half man and half goat. This poor satyr looked dreadfully ill, half starved and shivering. Without a second thought, King Midas gently helped the satyr into his grand castle. He ordered his servants to bring warm water to wash the satyr, fresh food to fill his belly, and soft blankets to tuck him into a comfortable bed for a long, restful sleep. The next morning, when the satyr awoke, his fever was gone and his strength had returned. The king and the satyr shared a delightful breakfast, chatting like old friends. King Midas was astonished to learn that this satyr was part of the court of the powerful god Dionysus, the god of wine, celebration, and truth. That very same day, King Midas insisted on taking the satyr home personally, in his finest and most comfortable chariot. To the king, it didn't matter if the satyr was a servant. He was the servant of a god and deserved the utmost respect and care. But even if he wasn't, the king would have done the same, for at his core, King Midas had a very kind and generous heart. As it turned out, the satyr was much more than just a servant to Dionysus. He was the god's old teacher and a very dear friend. Dionysus was so grateful to King Midas for showing such kindness to his companion that he appeared before the king. He boomed, in a voice that was both powerful and warm, that he would grant any single wish the king could imagine. King Midas thought for a moment. He didn't need to wish for anything for his daughter. He had already given her every toy, every dress, and every joy a child could dream of, and then some. He didn't need to wish for his rose garden, because all across the land, people knew his roses were the most fragrant and beautiful in the world, that left only one thing: gold. With a heart full of excitement, King Midas wished that everything he touched would turn into pure, shining gold. At first, the king didn't think his wish had been granted. As he climbed back into his chariot to return home, he touched the wooden rail, but it remained wood. He felt a small pang of disappointment, but was still happy he had helped the satyr. After all, satyrs, being half man and half goat, weren't always treated with kindness in the ancient world because of their unusual appearance. When the king finally arrived back at his castle, he walked to his dining hall and warily pulled out a chair to sit down. The very instant his fingers grazed the wood, the chair transformed into solid gold. Astonished, he reached out and touched the table. It too became gold. He touched a simple clay vase, gold. King Midas, overjoyed, began to race through his castle, his laughter echoing down the hallways. Everything he touched, tapestries, pillars, even the floor beneath his feet, turned to brilliant, heavy gold. He was the richest man in the world. He shouted to his servants, "Prepare a magnificent feast. We must celebrate this glorious day." The king's servants were very fond of him. They often thought he was a bit foolish and obsessed with wealth, but they knew he was a dear man underneath it all. So they rushed to the kitchens and cooked and baked and prepared a feast fit for a god. The table was laden with roasted meats, crusty bread, ripe fruits, and sweet cakes. The smells were so wonderful that King Midas couldn't wait for his daughter to join him. He eagerly reached out and grabbed a handful of delicious-looking grapes. But as he brought them to his lips, they turned hard and cold in his hand. With a clatter, he dropped the solid gold grapes onto his golden plate. He tried to pick up a piece of bread, but it too became a lump of inedible metal. In desperation, he tried leaning over the table to bite a piece of roasted chicken directly, but that didn't work either. The moment the meat touched his lips, it turned to golden. His mouth. A cold wave of fear washed over the king. His eyes, which moments ago had been sparkling with glee, now filled with terror. He realized with dawning horror that if he could not eat, he would starve to death, surrounded by his useless golden fortune. This wasn't a blessing. It was a terrible curse. The king didn't know what to do. Heartbroken, King Midas wandered sadly out to his rose garden, the one place that usually brought him peace. His little daughter was there, as she often was, picking a bouquet of his finest roses. When she saw her father's sad face, she dropped the flowers and ran to him, her arms outstretched for a comforting hug as she wrapped her arms around his waist. King Midas felt her small body go still and heavy. He looked down in horror. His beloved daughter was no longer a warm, giggling child. She was a cold, lifeless golden statue. King Midas hung his head and wept, his body shaking with sobs. As his hot tears fell upon his precious roses, they too turned into hard, golden flowers. But the king didn't care. He didn't care about his roses. He didn't care about his mountains of gold, and he didn't even care about himself anymore. All he cared about was his daughter. Dionysus, hear my prayer? The king cried out to the heavens, take my wish back. Please take my wish back and save my daughter. And one last time, the king's wish was granted. Now that you've heard the story, I have a few questions for you to think about. If you had one wish from a god, what would you wish for and why? Do you think King Midas was a good king or a bad king? What do you think is the most important lesson from this story? Write your answers in the comments below. We'd love to see what you think.